This is the eLearn Podcast. If you're passionate about the future of learning, you're in the right place. The expert guests on this show provide insights into the latest strategies, practices, and technologies for creating killer online learning outcomes. My name's Ladek, and I'm your host from OpenLMS. The eLearn Podcast is sponsored by eLearn Magazine, your go-to resource for all things online learning. Click-by-click how-to articles, the latest in EdTech, spotlight on successful outcomes and trends in the marketplace. Subscribe today and never miss a post at elearnmagazine.com. And OpenLMS, a company leveraging open source software to deliver effective, customized, and engaging learning experiences for schools, universities, companies, and governments around the world since 2005. Learn more at openlms.net. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the eLearn Podcast. My name is Ladek. As you just heard, I work for this cool company here called OpenLMS, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about my guest today and his company and his views on the world of e-learning and online learning. Andrea Laus, how are you today, sir? Andrea, how are you?
Hi, Ladek. Very nice to be here and very, very fine and so honored to be at your show today.
Oh, thank you. Tell everybody where, we're not in the same part of the world. Where are you sitting? What part of the world are you in?
Currently, I'm in Switzerland, in Lugano, where we have the headquarters of our company, SkillGym. But I've just flown back from San Diego, where I was attending the ATV 23 just a week ago. So
nice, excellent. Hope you're not too jet lagged. Excellent.
Just a word.
Yeah. So, as I like to do for everyone who's on the show, could you please, give us the 30, 60 seconds on who you are, what SkillGym is, and sort of set the stage for us?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm Andrea. I'm an entrepreneur, and I founded one company named SkillGym that dates back 10 years ago. And the type of problem we solve is helping companies upskill their people, whether they are managers, sales reps, or individual contributors, by means of practicing in lifelike scenarios, which we call AI digital role play. We've been doing this for many years. We've been training over 500,000 people around the world on several subjects, and we are healthy. We do a lot of fun in doing this, and so very happy to be here.
Oh, fantastic. So let's start out there. What, for those who are, need the distinction like myself, what's the difference between reskilling, upskilling, new skilling, what is, define upskilling for me? I mean, we can make an assumption, but I'd love to hear how you define that.
Sure. Well, let me just start off saying that there is not such a thing like a unique definition. So I've been getting around with lots of clients, and normally what I see is that sometimes people use different words to mention the same kind of process. But if you want to be a little precise with the term upskilling, we mean taking someone and improving their level of skills to a higher level. This especially happens when people need to go for higher level roles, or they need to upgrade their career and do something more complex. By the way, one point that is very interesting to talk about is what we mean by skills. And of course, there are several types of skills, and we as a company, as a problem solver, we work in the realm of soft skills. So when we talk about upskilling, what we mean is helping people improve the quality of their behaviors, but not just that. But certainly it's not about improving their knowledge about how to do things in the area of hard skills. Things like there's a new technology, I need to upskill myself, or things like that. This is out of the scope for what we do, but it's certainly something that has to do with upskilling as well. And I would cut the entire cake into two different parts. 50% is about hard skill upskilling, and the other 50% is about soft skill upskilling. We choose to stay in the soft skill area because that's more challenging. It's very simple, just simple as that. I mean, improving hard skill is something that I would define a kind of a digital process. You don't know something, you learn about that, you apply. When it comes to soft skills, it's much beyond that. I mean, it's just like sport. You don't learn to play tennis just by reading Tennis for Dummies. Sometimes you need to go in the field and start practicing over and over and over until your behavior really change. Then there is the point of reskilling. Again, subtle differences. Reskilling means taking someone that has done a different job and bringing into a different position that has to do with something very different. I would say that reskilling is more about hard skills rather than soft skills, because in the end, whatever the type of job you do, the type of behavior you need to apply in terms of soft skills, it's there. And it's typically more about upskilling than reskilling.
Fantastic. That was a great definition. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you making the distinction between soft skills and
Yeah.
hard skills. Like, hey, here's a new machine we have to learn. Here's a new technology. Here's a new process, et cetera. I'd like to dive deeper on that.
Yeah.
Why are soft skills more challenging? I mean, you put the tennis example out there about, you have to kind of do it over and over again. Give me some examples. I'd love to hear specific examples of what do you think are the most challenging soft skills for people to, learn, to upskill into, to continually refine so that let me leave it there, because then there's a sub question.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, there are tons of soft skills, and by the way, they can get clustered by type of role. So every type of role in an organization, whether it's a business or a school or a nonprofit, whatever, any role has their own skills. I could tell you about, let me say, best-selling soft skills. And again, they can be clustered at different levels. The higher level is the kind of challenges that many people deal with in their workplace. For example, if you are a manager, one of the soft skills you definitely need to master is your ability of giving feedback, which is a very high level skill and can be, cut down into sub skills like being able to listen, being able to manage objections, being able to deliver a vision, things like that. And by the way, companies we work with, but let me say any company around the world, they develop what they call competency models, which are typically some clusters of competencies, values, and behaviors they would love their people to apply during their business activity. And those competency models are thought for delivering or inspiring people to adopt certain types of behaviors when they go for those type of soft skills or activities, such as, for example, giving feedback, delegating, things like that. But I mentioned giving feedback because that's a good example. I mean, 100% of our clients, when they come to us at a certain point, they tell us, look, we have some issues about improving the way feedback is given around our organization, within the organization.
Okay, so take me on a journey. How does SkillGym work on? You said that you've been working in the area of AI for 10 years now.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that what is here is a model that you interact with. Take me through the process. If I'm considering being a client of yours, without necessarily selling, what does that look like? Do you have a standard set of soft skills? You're like, hey, look, here's our library, and you can choose which ones you want, and you kind of go through those processes, or is it truly customized for each client or in each individual at this stage? What does that look like?
A couple of steps back before we enter into the solution, just a little bit of framework. First of all, when you go for upskilling people on soft skills, such as, for example, giving feedback, which is just one of the many examples, but let's say you're the client with that issue in mind. Now, most of e-learning technology vendors out there would propose you to drive your people through a journey of content delivered to learn how to give feedback, which is that same level as I mentioned before of the example. Here's the book of tennis for dummies, which is very much interesting because you need to start from somewhere, but there is a point where you definitely need to leave the book apart and go and try it out yourself. We are in that area. We are in the area of you certainly gone through the knowledge before. Now it's time to practice with us. So we deliver something that is taken from the concept of role playing, which is the best way to practice in vitro certain business situation. The problem of role playing is about a couple of things. The first one is not really perceived as a safe environment from the trainees. I mean, if you played any role play before, you definitely know the feeling. You get watched. I mean, there are people watching you. You're supposed to play a role which is not yourself in front of other people, an audience, so it's not comfortable. But most of all, the problem of role playing is about scalability. Again, it's just like if you want to play tennis and I tell you, okay, let's play once. That's what normally happens in role play because, organizations are so complex and busy that you're very much lucky if you can play it once, one role play with me and you, but that won't help that much, wouldn't it? I mean, you would probably understand something, but in order to get to the level of expertise you need to overcome your current upskilling limitations, you need to play over and over. So this is where digital role play comes into place. This is what SkillGym is about. Of course, you can deliver digital role play in several ways, but until you bring in AI, it becomes very difficult for people to find a good motivation to play over and over again, because AI will let them make the thing look lifelike, look something like every time I play the same situation, which is something you need to do to practice and improve, the situation is going to be slightly different. This is where AI will play a role. So the idea of digital role play based on AI and the type of experiences, first of all, is situational. You learn soft skills by situations. It's not a theoretical thing. It's about, okay, you need to learn about giving feedback. Here is a situation. You need to talk to Ladek, who is always late at work in the morning, or telling enough, or whatever. There are several reasons for giving feedback. Here is the situation. Here's the role play. So when you play with a digital role play, you start with the most important things of them all, which is doing. So there is no theory. I will give you some framework about the situation. Here is Ladek, here is the issue, here is your objective, play. And then you find one another talking like we're doing now in real time, managed by AI, and I'll tell you about AI in a minute. And you do. So you basically play the situation, play the conversation. It can last 10, 15 minutes, the typical time of a real life conversation on that specific subject. After that, there is the second most important part, which is the feedback session. Mm-hmm. And this is a kind of, a joke because it's a feedback about your ability of giving feedback.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Don't get confused. So the idea is you play and then I'll provide you with the feedback. And typically, to improve, you need a couple of things. The first one is, of course, play over and over, reflect and apply new practices given the reflection you've done during the conversation and the feedback you collected. But most of all, to do that reflection, you need different types of feedback coming in. It's not just about right or wrong. It doesn't work like that on behavior. So you need at least 3 different types of things. The first one is a kind of what we call emotional feedback. You need to feel like how the counterpart felt during the conversation. Mm. This is an eye-opener because think about the last conversation you had with someone. You definitely went out of the conversation thinking it went very well and you had an idea about what was the outcome of the conversation.
Or it went very badly.
Or very bad.
Yeah,
but
sure.
What matters is that you never know how the other party felt. Now, imagine if you could actually eavesdrop to someone else, the other party, going back to his office and telling to a friend how he felt during a conversation with you. This is an eye-opener. This is a privilege you don't have in real life. Mm-hmm. And this is the first way of providing the feedback, is about letting people feel like the other party does. And then at the opposite side of the spectrum, we go very analytical. Imagine if you could review any of your conversation done in real life with the help of augmented reality. So you can step by step every single things that were said during the conversation, and you could see balloons saying like, here Lade was not effective because, but then Andrea felt like this because, and you can do that at every single step. And then in the middle, the last step of the feedback is numbers. You cannot improve anything you cannot measure. So what we do is we give you the feeling, we give you the analytics, and then we put all together into numbers. And the more you play, the more those numbers become trends. And the more trends they become, they will highlight best practices, they will highlight gaps, they will let you reflect. And the idea is that you keep practicing at a consistent pace. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency, playing over and over again according to a schedule. And what we see is that people get fun out of that, they play a lot, they enjoy the experience, and they improve. And they improve typically on 4 different key metrics that define according to us. And this is not just about what SkillGym does. This is more about a higher level of methodological thinking. If I should tell you what upskilling is about, well, upskilling is about helping people navigate change with confidence. And to do that, you need to help them improve on 4 different elements. The first one is self-awareness. The key question here is, are you aware of how you are performing in that specific situation and what are the reactions of the other party? Second is social awareness. Do you truly understand the emotions of the other party? Are you capable of capturing them and turning them into reasonable and, let me say, effective impact and approach? Then you have to improve your confidence in behaviors. There are a certain set of behaviors which are, the common ground of any behavioral approach. If I need to give you a feedback, one of my behaviors is being able to listen to you effectively. Otherwise, it's just, a deaf and dumb type of conversation. Things like that. And then finally, you need to grow on your role expertise, which means practicing over and over on so many scenarios that you can achieve a couple of things more. The first one is velocity, which means that on routinary activities, you are able to go on autopilot. That's just the way you drive your car. If you give feedback every single day, you start finding patterns and you can go automatic on certain things, and this will speed up your efficiency. But at the same time, you need to develop the other side of the dash, which is flexibility. What happens when the traffic light goes red unexpectedly? You need
Sure.
to,
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the major dangers of going on autopilot is that I would think, especially in the soft skills realm, one of the key aspects is how do you deal with unexpected situations?
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And so this is how our brain works. The more you practice in a certain way with a certain pattern and, let me say, consistency, the more you develop those 2 things. On one side, velocity, which is do it automatically. And on the other side, flexibility, which is when it's time to stop the autopilot and dig into a totally unexpected or new situation. And the more you develop the 4 core metrics we talked about before, self-awareness, social awareness, confidence in a competency model, and role expertise, the more the other 2 will come in the best way possible. And that's the weapons you need to navigate change with confidence.
Wow. So where does this happen in the flow of work for most of your clients, or is it across the spectrum? So I'm just wondering, and I guess a sub question there is, how does that vary, according to a hierarchy of an organization?
Yeah,
so,
of course,
managers and leaders would have different opportunities to engage with this, whereas people who are line workers or maybe somebody in the field, again, their schedule is going to be very different, or their opportunities. How do you pace that? What's your suggestion there?
First of all, the pace and the intensity of the training activities, meaning the practice-based learning, varies according to the role, the type of situation, and some other reflection the company may do about how urgent it is to go fast or slower to the point you want to reach. To give you an idea, it's very different to let a manager practice rather than a routinary operational guy. So, of course, they have different needs, and also the type of metric they need to develop vary a little bit. For example, the routinary stuff is more interested in velocity, the management stuff is much more interested in flexibility. And to achieve a different level those metrics, you need to apply a different pace and consistency. Given that, what we see is that on average, when people practice over a period of around 2 months at a pace of around 1 hour per week, that's enough to make sure that those people will grow on those 4 metrics I mentioned before by 2 digits, which is pretty cool. And it's all about consistency. Of course, the next question would be, is it going to stay there forever? I mean, that improvement. And again, we called our software SkillGym for a reason. It's just like a gym. I mean, let's say you wanna lose weight and you go to the gym for a couple of months with a very good trainer and a very good methodology. You will achieve your goal. However, if you stop there and you go back home and start back on your old habit of eating cheeseburger night and day, guess what? You're going back to your habits and your weight will rise again. So what you need is maintenance. So it's about, practicing, reaching a plateau, a level, and then maintaining that level over time with a slower pace activity that will ensure that you keep on staying fit.
So what's the drop-off rate that you finally see? Because if we're going to make the association comparison with like a physical fitness gym, we know that most people, they get their New Year's resolutions and, they'll go and sign up for a gym and they'll go once, maybe twice. And then, like it's like an 95% drop off. Like what's the secret to, getting people to come back consistently? Is it just, either a carrot or stick method within their company, according to their job, or what have you found?
Yeah, typically when outside is raining, you say, I'll go to the gym tomorrow. And you know what's the number one excuse for not showing?
I think it's when I have a cheeseburger, my friend. That's when I think. No, I'm just playing. Sorry.
You know what is the number one excuse for people to skip the reps? Is I am too busy.
Of course.
Now, guess what? The reason why me and you are here at this very moment in the same place is because it was on a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So what we developed, by the way, using a little bit of AI here as well, is a facility that's a technology within SkillGym called the Butler. And the Butler is a system helping you scheduling your sessions of practicing into your calendar and your lock-in. I mean, once you decide specifically to set one session today at 4 p.m. Guess what? It's in your calendar. So you're still busy, but you're busy with me. And so that's a magic trick. I mean, it works so well.
Say that again. So wait, you're still busy, but you're busy with me. I don't like, what does that
mean? Me being SkillGym. So.
Oh, okay. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have this system that will write you on behalf of the character. So if there is a character named Tom with whom you're gonna have a conversation about, I don't know, conflict resolution or D&I or whatever, Tom will write you directly and will say, hey, Ladek, what about having a meeting later today? Choose the time and place. And so you go on your doodle system, you double click and it goes into your calendar. And so everybody else will know that you are busy at that moment with SkillGym, and you find magic, you find the time to play.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm a huge believer as well that we can create time in that way, right? Yeah. Like I just let's leave that there, because then we're going to get into some pretty loosey-goosey philosophical stuff there, right? So what I want to know is, you've painted a picture that seems just like so many of our other guests, like, this is obvious. This is so, it's a no-brainer. Of course, like, hey, you've got a butler that tells you not only when to show up, but how, what skill we're going to show up for. We bring this into our company. So, and it sounds like a fun process. So, you're going through this flow and, you're building those 4 competencies. And yet here we are you have a company, so clearly this is a problem. This is a challenge. So what are the challenges that people have, either not doing this or not recognizing this is important, or like just even still getting to the gym? What are the challenges that you find that you're still having to improve?
Yeah, it all goes down to motivation. And in fact, the Butler is one of at least 3 different strategies we have to make sure that people, first of all, fully understand the importance of practicing and fully understand the importance of consistency. So another couple of strategies. We have what we call empowerment sessions. You remember at the beginning, I said that AI is typically the beginning of a journey for upskilling. AI is just one tool, is one technology. And I'll be on AI in a couple of minutes if you don't mind to say a little bit about that.
Sure.
But before going there, the journey is about the technology, a methodology, and a framework, helping people to, first of all, understand why it's about them to get motivated and stay in the loop. So we have a couple of things that we normally use together with the Butler. One is what we call empowerment session, which are one-to-many sessions online, like we're doing right now with our facilitators, that help people, first of all, recognize the importance of what they do and find themselves into a tribe, into a group of people sharing the same value, and sometimes also getting challenged. Because, for example, we organize challenges with scores, and some clients put some, prizes at the end of the race and things like that. And then there is another element which we call practice buddy or sport buddy. I'm sure if you are familiar with gyms, we normally tend to go in pairs of 2 people. So each one will motivate the other one. And this is done in SkillGym as well. And it's very important because it will help people, to find the energy when the energy is over, because
Sure.
the other body is always there to motivate each other in a good way. And so, of course, there are several challenges, being the first one about adherence, which is one metric with which we measure how close people are in terms of follow-up to the pace and schedule of the program. This is a metric we measure, this is a metric we show, and helps a lot people to fully understand how close or how far they are to the commitment that is required for doing the job. Of course, if you want to get upskilled, you need to sweat. No way in between. So if you think about, yes, it's just about something I put in my pocket, and since I bought it, it's done. It's not like that. I mean, you need to sweat. So if you don't, you will not improve. And this is something I can't help but providing something fun, which is another of the elements that keep people stick to the seat because they enjoy. Our simulations are very much, challenging, very lifelike. There is a narrative flow that evolves according to what you say. So it's not just about, I say this, you answer that, but maybe you answer something different because I said stupid thing three minutes before and you still remember about that. It's very much lifelike. And here it comes AI, which was, by the way, in the title of our session.
I was just going to say, we finally got there a half hour in. Fantastic, right?
Yeah, enter AI. So there is a lot of talk around generative AI nowadays. I was at the show last week in San Diego, and everybody was talking about generative AI. And by the way, I put that title in a session we had, and we had a long queue outside, maybe because a lot of people were curious or even FOMO for that, generative AI stuff that is popping up, and people think a little bit about, wow, I am missing something.
Sure, yeah.
Well, let me tell you my feeling here. Of course, we use generative AI. Of course, we've been doing this much before GPT and the like became, mass market and, AI for, let me say, AI for dummies. But the point here is that generative AI has 2 sides of a dash, and sometimes is not exactly what you need for helping people get upskilled. So the key point is to use AI the right way to make sure that people make the best out of the experience. Let me explain a couple of things. The first one is, when you use AI to generate new stories, the key question is, where does the expertise come from? What you want when upskilling people is bring the expertise of the expert, real experts, and pour it into the newcomers. Now, the expertise of the real expert comes from mental models that they have developed over time according to having lived a certain situation in the real life.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want is to make sure that any generative activity from AI comes at the second step after we have captured the expertise of the real expert. We want them to tell us the real story, and from there on we may want to use generative AI, to work out dialogues that may sound, fancy, or at least always changing according to the way you practice. But it's very important because sometimes it looks like, you at the push of a button, here's a new story, let's go. And I see a lot of trailers of those puppets with GPT written on top, just like if GPT in real time create new stories. Funny, but probably be careful because the real expertise is priceless. And this is something that really needs to be taken into account. So generative AI, yes, but after you capture the real expertise of the experts as a framework to build on. And then what AI should be about? Let me tell you how we use AI. We use AI to capture your behaviors, your emotion, and your intentions. And by behaviors, I mean that whatever you say in front of SkillGym, we are capable of understanding if, for example, if you're asking an open-ended question, if you're just curious, if you are aggressive, if you are overwhelming, things like that, which is real behaviors. We capture those behaviors together with the emotional tone of voice you put in that. And believe me, capturing the behavior is not that easy, but it's so much important because this is where you really impact other people. And then we turn everything like this by using our pre-recorded actors, which is so much important because you know that 90% of communication is body language. So you
Sure.
want someone in front of you that really moves like I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot achieve that, with cartoons, avatars, and stuff like that. So we pre-record real actors capable of delivering that exact body language meaning, and we drive that through AI to make sure that whatever the captured behavior was taken from you before as the user is turned into a meaningful, coherent reaction of the character. So it will be always coherent in terms of what you are talking about, but the reaction of the character will be triggered in a way that will follow not just the behavior you're having now, but the behaviors you've been going through all the way before, just like in real life we're doing now. You probably didn't know that much about me before we met, so there was a kind of blank paper, and the more I talk, the more you write into that blank paper about your impression about me. And my chances to change your opinion at the end of this conversation are very tiny. This is real life. And this is how SkillGym works. This is how that AI is used for.
So then let's just say that I'm the person going through the process. Would your system remember those interactions from the beginning? Like, so we have an initial conversation, then a week later, session number 2, then a month later, session number 3, etc. Over this consistent schedule. Does the avatar I'm working with, I want to say, remember those interactions and then evolve with me?
Yeah, exactly. Well, not between different conversations, because the scope is that of practicing the same kind of exercise, although there are nuances that will change within the same situation. But what matters is that not only the system will remember what you just told him or what you told him since the beginning of the conversation, but it will make his own idea on that. So he will react accordingly, and according to, for example, his character type, the type of situation, the level of stress he was coming in with, and the level of stress that you increased or diminished according to the way you talk to him or to her in that specific situation. So that's very lifelike. This is the best way to use AI because people don't really need fancy story out of the box from AI. What they need is AI understanding how they behave and adapting the reaction of the character in front of them accordingly in a lifelike approach. This is what they really need. And of course, it's not that easy. This is why we worked 10 years on this technology.
Sure, of course. Yeah. Well, you've been doing this for the last 10 years. My final question for you is one that I ask everybody here, and that is, what is the next 12 months, the next 18 months? Like, where do you see upskilling going? What are you most excited about in your company in terms of continuing evolution? Is it I'm not even going to lead you at all. Like, what are you most excited about, and what do you see happening over the next 2 years?
Well, all in all is a game of stories. I mean, when you have set up this type of environment where people can practice, what we hear from the outside, from the clients, is we need more situations, we need more stories. So over the next 12, 18 months, we're going to work on typically a couple of things. The first one is stories. Grow the catalog to make sure that we incorporate more and more roles, and within those roles, more programs, more circuits, more challenges to practice with. One point. The second one is quality of metrics. Because again, the more you can precisely measure single elements, imagine your behaviors like your body. Behaviors are invisible muscles. So it's just like thinking about a gym. So the development strategy is more machines on the floor, because you need to practice on different muscles, and at the same time, more way to measure the improvement and measure the gaps, so that you can practice even better. So these are the two main directions, and there are some more, but
fantastic,
not important.
Andrea Laus, you are the CEO of SkillGym. This has been honestly, this has been me sitting back and listening to you pontificate. This has been a fantastic conversation around upskilling, and your use of an AI generated avatar, and to learn to build those skills consistently over time. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy afternoon to speak with us today. I know that as well, you're going to be a part of this summit here, the AI and Learning Summit, during either our July or August session as well. So I encourage everybody to come listen to you there as well. But thank you so much for your time today.
Lade, thank you so much, and thanks to the audience that has been watching or will watch this afterwards. So thank you again, and visit skillgym.com if you want to learn more.
Thanks for that. I forgot to ask that last question. How should people get a hold of you? Is it go to skillgym.com?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ladek.